Greetings and salutations, everybody. This is Dr. Barbee Watkins with the Presbytery of the James, and welcome to another episode of Innovate, Ignite, and Inspire. Today we have a very special guest with us, Barbara Chalfant. And what I will say is that she's my colleague, she's my friend, she's my sister in Christ. And so today's episode, we're going to spend some time allowing you to get inside of what she does for the Presbytery of the James. A lot of you have been wondering, what do these three presbyters do? So on this episode, we're going to talk about congregational care. Barbara, it is so good to have you with us today. I'm so excited about it.
Well, thank you for the invitation. This will be fun.
Absolutely. So my first question to you is the obvious one. How did you choose, decide, feel called to become a certified Christian educator?
Well, one day I came home from 7th grade, stormed through the house, slammed down my books, and plopped down in the chair next to Mom and said, I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. You know how dramatic teenagers can be. And so Mom said, well, let's look at what you like to do and what you don't like to do, what you're good at and what you aren't so good at. And so we made a list. And Mom said, well, it looks like you should work for the church. Have you thought about being a Christian educator? And our church wasn't big enough to have a Christian educator. So she introduced me to a couple of Christian educators, and I followed them. I met Lucy Rose at Massanetta that summer and talked with her, and she was the first female pastor I'd ever met.
Wow.
So I knew I could be a pastor, but I kept thinking about what they do and what I wanted to do, and I decided, no, I wasn't going to be a pastor. I was going to be a Christian educator. And it never left me. I wanted to tell stories to children. I wanted to tell them about Jesus. And so I became a Christian educator. I was the youngest Christian educator to graduate from the Presbyterian School of Christian Education when I graduated.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Christian education, those two words together. But I know that there's a such thing as like formation, spiritual formation, and Christian education isn't just for children.
Correct.
So tell me a little bit about how you view education, Christian education, and how that connects through the stages and life cycles of from wee highs to even adults.
Right. I believe that one of the gifts of the Christian educator is to give people vocabulary to talk about the faith that they experience, the faith that God has already placed within them, to give them the wideness of the vocabulary we have, to give them story, to give them inspiration, to give them a whiff of the Spirit as they move throughout their lives. For youth and children, it's pretty clear what we're doing is walking alongside them as they experience this world and how God has placed them in it, and to wonder with them about all of those things. With adults, it's a little more difficult. You are learning and unlearning things. A lot of what we do in adult education is to unlearn the way we speak about our experiences, to look again at our past and to think fully and clearly about our future.
That's good. That's real good stuff. So in the Presbytery of James, you have been called to be the presbyter for congregational care. Say a little bit about that so that our audience can get clearer on what that means for them.
What that means is I get to listen to the stories of the churches in the Presbytery of the James, to be a partner with them as they explore new ways to do education, new ways to do nurture, new ways to train their leadership. I will be doing a lot of training. I'm working with a group of educators who are looking at doing officer training and teacher training and clerk training and treasurer training and all of those things. But I'll also be able to go into churches and help them audit their program and wonder about what the future may look like in their congregation, and to take steps towards that future.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so now I'm gonna pick a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was growing up, our worship service started at 11 o'clock a.m. Sunday school was from 9:45 till 10:45. In my church, all of the young kids were taking piano lessons from Mrs. Zenobia G. Terry down the street, and she trained us to also become church musicians. Now, that's when life was much more simple.
Correct.
There were far less extracurricular activities for children. Uh, my mother worked from the home, so my father was out, and so she had the time to make certain these things were going on, and so she participated in my nurture as well. Things have changed a lot.
Yes, they have.
You have single parent homes, and you have dual two parent homes in which both parents are working. Sunday school, what would you say to a congregation who they remember the past of how Sunday school happened on Sunday mornings before worship service? What would you say to them? What would you say to them that will enable them to reconsider offering Christian education, spiritual formation, but just not in the traditional way?
Well, my sister and brother-in-law are a couple that would love to go to church but can't because they both work on Sundays. And it's tragic for their family not to have that community and not to have that stability in their lives. What I've asked her, what could we do?
Mm-hmm.
What could we do? Well, what about Friday nights? I know that's supposed to be date night, but how many Friday nights do you go out on a date? Not many, really. You stay at home and watch TV. So Friday night, what if there was a dinner and education for everyone with a worship piece? So there was Friday night was church night, just like the old Wednesday nights were church night. To do education at a different time. A lot of churches have gone with takeout education.
Oh.
They get pizza boxes and they put in the pizza boxes all the supplies you need for a Sunday school lesson.
Wow.
And the curriculum, and you, for a week or 2 or 3 or 4, and families come by the church and pick up their pizza box so they can do Christian education at home.
Wow.
That's another thing to support the family. Realistically, for years, we've only had 45 minutes for education at church. And think of all the hours they have at home. Doing other things, yes, but this is something they could do together.
Wow. Yeah.
There's so many really creative ideas out there about how to do Christian education in this time and place. It's just about being open and listening to the Spirit as it moves, and wondering exactly what that Spirit wants you to do.
Yeah. So now, how long have you been in this position?
In this position here at Presbytery of the James, I've been here 4.5 months.
Now, how long have you been a certified Christian educator?
37 years.
Wow, 37 years. So you have a lot of history and you have a lot of knowledge to share with folks.
Yes.
Yes, and a lot of years of experience. Wow, that's fantastic. So tell me this: what do you see as some of the challenges that you're hearing about in the Presbytery of the James as it relates to their congregations, the education component, even congregational vitality? I mean, a lot of our congregations, let's face it, they are shrinking in size, not
Right.
growing in number. So what are some of the things, and what would you say some of our challenges are?
Wow. Some of our challenges are that we just feel overwhelmed. Especially since COVID, people have felt depressed and overwhelmed. And that mental health issue is a significant issue, especially for our youth. They are so tied into social media and gaming and those sorts of things. And it's hard to strike a balance mentally and physically and spiritually in that kind of world. And I think adults have some similar issues. Mental health is a significant issue for all of us, especially right now. And the church providing a place of peacefulness, a place of balance, a place of laughter, I think is really significantly important in these days.
Yeah. Do you have a vision for how the Presbytery of the James can begin to address some of those challenges that you just mentioned?
Well, I'm hoping that the youth leaders, we just got our youth leaders together this week, that they will continue to get together and to support each other as they test drive new programs in their churches, and the churches that don't have enough youth or don't have a staff person for youth, that we can include their volunteers in that leadership group. For children, I'm not certain exactly where we're going right now. I've heard less about children and much more about adults.
Okay.
Adults finding curriculum and finding programming that spans the red and the blue of our congregations, our purple congregations.
Okay.
Finding ways to talk with each other without taking on our culture's walled up, angry sensibilities. We as Presbyterians have historically been really good at speaking together without conflict, or speaking together in conflict and then still loving each other.
Yes.
And it's just a little harder, and it takes a little more thought now than it has before.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, friends, this is so good, and we can go on and talking about this. So what I realize is that we're going to need a part 2. Barbara, are you willing to continue another conversation with me?
Sure.
Perfect. Well, friends, thank you so very much for tuning in to our podcast. We have as our guest Barbara Chalfont, who will be back to continue this conversation with us. And so we are so delighted, Presbytery of the James, that you are listening to this, that you're listening to this information that we're sharing with you. And we hope that you're learning something more about who the Presbytery of the James is and what we do as Presbytery leaders. And so until our next time together, stay inspired.